This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, now we're recording. All right, so we'll call the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission to order at 6:05 p.m. We can go ahead and start with the first item on the agenda, which is roll call. I'll start with myself, Latricia Adams, Chair, present. Hey, Secretary Woods. All right, Dr. Burns. All right, awesome. As we have additional LPC members to join us, we'll make sure that we acknowledge them on the record. As of now, we don't have any additional members of the general public who are present in person. And we also have currently three members of the public who have joined us virtually. All right, so moving into the next agenda item, so public comment. So we did not have any public comments that came in today, but we did have some that came in prior to this meeting, but after the December meeting. So we were able to capture them on the agenda. So for the first item, so there were two, and I'll do a summary. But there are two community organizations that requested a meeting with the Shelby County Health Department Director. So Dr. Taylor, specifically in regards to a $13.83 million CDC and a Center for Disease Control grant. um, the first organization that sent this inquiry or request was sent in on January the 10th, 2023. And that first organization that sent the request was Protect Our Aquifer. And then, respectively, on January the 12th, 2023, the second organization that sent their request was Memphis Community Against Pollution. So we did get a response back, and I want to add some context. Our role as the LPC was to serve as a liaison to do a request to Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor graciously responded. Her response was to give more clarity initially, and thank you to Dr. Taylor, that this particular grant specifically is focused on workforce development. So that would be very specific to Shelby County Health Department staff. um, Now, granted, that has been spoken like on the record before that there is a need for more development, more staff. That's not even just specific to Shelby County, but the entire United States of America. So that's the initial response. There was a request back to the LPC to provide recommendations on what would be an appropriate forum should she move forward with providing like some more information to the general public about this grant. So I want to pause and open it up for discussion to LPC members around what that could potentially look like. And I had not responded because I wanted to get here and make sure that it was on the record and I followed the rules. All right. I don't know. So I'm trying to. So I'll just be honest. So from my experience from working in government, typically when we have had grants, it would be internal briefings specific to whoever's program it was going to impact. Not to say that it couldn't happen. Um, yeah, this would just be really new. So I don't necessarily know if I have experience with that. Now, initially, my mom went to like once like the actual grant like gets like off the ground and like things are set in place because I believe that they have about a 5 year span to even like spend that money. Um, so that I mean it could look different over time. Um, yes, I'm like I don't have any background in that, so I'm not necessarily sure what to specifically recommend like on that forum because I haven't seen that before. It's a federal grant, so I mean it's open to the general public like what it entails. I think that Dr. Taylor did a great job with saying what it was for. I'm not really sure if there was a meeting what could be gleaned except for just like more general information about like what the grant is set out to do. It doesn't appear to be a grant where there would be accessibility or funding that would be extended to the general public. It seems very germane to staff for the Shelby County Health Department. That's that's all I got. I don't like what y'all what y'all think. I'm like I don't.
What you said about putting more information out there about the grant?
Yeah, now they did was some media releases that went out about the grant, and then there also was a release from like the county, like from Mayor Harris's office that went out congratulating the Shelby County Health Department that went out. I know like from our social media page, like we did some resharing, saying like, yay, that's great. $13.8 million. That's come through. That's amazing. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure like what else could be done. Um, so I guess like my next question is, so the request from both of these organizations was to do a meeting. Because this meeting was requested through the LPC, it would have to be public. So I don't even really know like how that would work. Because our role was just to serve as a liaison to ask for the meeting. So I think that goes back to like what Dr. Taylor's question was, like what would be the best form? And I don't know. Hey Sharon.
Hi.
So acknowledging LPC member Sharon Hyde is present. Sharon, we're just on agenda item 2, letter A, um, where there was a request from two community-based organizations, protect our aquifer and Memphis community. I can't talk today, against pollution. That requested a meeting to learn a bit more about the $13.8 million grant um, that was granted from the CDC to the University of Memphis and to the Shelby County Health Department. And so essentially, the we did get a response back from Dr. Taylor where that grant funding is specifically for workforce development for Shelby County Health Department staff. And so we're kind of trying to figure out what would be a forum to like relay that information further. Um, and I didn't have any ideas. Trying to find, I'm like, did I kick out my own meeting? Hold on.
Seems like she answered the question they were asking. Um, I wonder if they had any follow-ups on their end.
Okay, this has been here twice. Hold on. Pause. Okay, go to meeting. It's not gonna stress me out today. Okay, can I get someone who is present virtually? You could just indicate in the chat box if you're able to hear us clearly. Yay, perfect. All right. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Go to meeting was not being very nice to me just now. Let's close this door. Okay, so maybe, because I don't want to belabor this particular item for too long. So maybe a next step would be to just summarize what the response was from Dr. Taylor to those respective organizations, and then see like what does their acts change based on what their response is. And since that's their acts, then maybe the question should be back to those respective organizations. What do they think would be the appropriate form to move forward? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Yep. So it would not involve us since it wasn't our original acts. So I will do that. I will follow up with those respective organizations and also follow up with Dr. Taylor just to be transparent, let her know that will be our next step. All right, problem solved. All right, moving to the next agenda item. So the University of Memphis Child Impact Statement. So I'm actually going to pull this up so I can give you a bit more context. So this was something that came from Dr. Leo Winter. She's an associate professor of applied linguistics from that's okay from the Department of English for the Institute for. Oh, let me pause. Okay. For the Institute for Intelligent Systems and director of Women's Plus Mentorship Network. Come through, Dr. Windsor, at the University of Memphis. And so, what she shared with the LPC, she stated that she's working on a child impact statement project as a mentor for the computer science capstone course this semester. In previous semesters, students helped to build this tool, which now needs some finessing in terms of user experience. She would like to do a survey or online focus group with a wide group of people who could help improve the usability of the various data sources. She referenced that this would be similar to a formatting with the Annie Casey Kids Count website, but she would like to garner some feedback and input as she's working with students over the course of the semester. She said that there are a few more data sources they are going to integrate, which includes the MLGW lead contamination data. And just for, I'm going to make an inference here that she's probably speaking to the MLGW GIS map that helps you locate where the lead service lines are across the city. And then she also said, for the most part, the data integration is done. Um, and ultimately, the end users would be the Shelby County commissioners, local policymakers, and local researchers and community members serving children and families. She'd like to get input on this, and if there's an opportunity to field a wider survey among those in Shelby County government, then she said perhaps that could be explored. So that was the statement that was submitted from Dr. Windsor. I mean, I think that that's great. I believe that this was submitted to some other staff members within the county. Once the tool is up and ready as far as the questionnaire, I did respond back to Dr. Windsor and say that when it's ready, send it over. Once she sends it over, I will make sure to share that with this body, and then we'll take a look at it. Whatever feedback we may have, it would have to come back to a public meeting so that we could discuss. But I think any type of integrated data that includes things around environmental data is critical. So I think that that's really exciting to include environmental type of data, specifically at a local level. We see that a lot in federal and state level data. So I think it's cool. But I open up for any comments that any LPC members may have to that. Nope. All right. All right, if there are no items for discussion for that, then we will move forward on the agenda. All right, so moving to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes from I don't know why I was about to say September. This is December. So approval of the minutes from December 14th, 2022. Also, if you are here virtually, if you access the agenda prior to this meeting, you were able to access the link, but I will also put the direct link to the minutes here for you as well in the chat box. There we go. All right, so here, did I give you some minutes, Sharon? Oh, okay, cool. All right, so I'll allow time for LPC members to peruse the minutes. And whenever the spirit moves anybody, if you'd like to make a motion to approve and then a second, I'll wait for you. Oh, my bad. Can we close that door? Can you close the door? It's a phantom in here. Thank you.
Did you hear me?
Mhm.
I made a motion to move.
Oh, okay. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? All right. It passes that we approve the minutes from the December 14th, 2022 meeting without any objections. All right, we're going to move to the next item, starting with old business. So a discussion and request, a motion to vote on the LPC parliamentarian. So at the last meeting, we had to reelect new officers, but we do have a vacancy for parliamentarian. There are bylaws that are present here. Should you want to review what the role of the parliamentarian includes. So what we'll need to do, somebody can nominate someone for this role. That person, should they, or people, should they accept that nomination, then we would approve the nominees and then we would vote. So those are the steps. And clearly, Robert's Rule of Order is a little bit of struggle, so I'm here for any support with this parliamentarian. Yeah, so it's in here and it's on, let's see, let me tell you what page. Uh-huh. Here you go. It's on page 5. Here we go. That's where it is. And those who are here virtually, I will put this link so that you can access the bylaws as well, so that you can follow along with us. Yeah, we can open the floor for discussion. Like point number 1. Oh, that tickled me. Yeah. So I think, but we didn't discuss like what role it would go under. I think if it was merged, I think it was between the secretary and the vice president. But we tabled it. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Sharon. You want to make a nomination?
What is my nomination for parliamentarian?
Mm-hmm.
I will nominate LaQuisha Barnes as parliamentarian for the LBP
LPC.
commission.
I would like to second.
Okay. And so Dr. Barnes has accepted the nomination. We've had a motion and a second. So now the next step is for us to vote. is it in favor? Yeah, in favor of the nominee for LPC Parliamentarian for Dr. Barnes. All in favor of the nomination for Dr. Barnes, say aye. Okay, any opposed? Abstain? All right, so that passes. Introducing the new parliamentarian for the LPC, Dr. Barnes. Congratulations. I'm so excited because clearly I need help with that so I can make sure that I have it together. All right, awesome. All right, so we can actually move forward to the next agenda item. So propose amendments to the bylaws and scope of work. And then there is a point of reference for those who are here virtually. You can look at the two. I'm going to put in the link for a soft copy of the LPC resolution. You can also reference the bylaws link that was just shared previously. So this is a discussion item. So to give a little bit more context, so I think just to be transparent, I think so. We're really visible, yay! Like in the community, and that's great. But I also wanted to go back and like review like our bylaws and the resolution to make sure that we are not overextending ourselves as a commission. And the reason why I say that is so the actual name of the commission is the Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission. That sustainability part does allow for quite a bit of flexibility where it could be more broad. But I think like for us not to be overwhelmed, I think that it may be good for us to just really be explicit around what we're going to focus on. So in the very beginning of the LPC, it was all about the bill mandating testing in school drinking water, which is very much so a core pillar of the work that we have to do. That was the first marching orders that we had from Mayor Harris. I will say as time has progressed, because now we're about to go into the second reiteration of that bill. Dang, time is flying. But not reiteration, but implementation of that bill is coming up not this academic school year, but the next academic school year for 23-24. But with the sustainability aspect, Mayor Harris has a lot of work that him and his staff are working on around, like, for example, like the Green Fleet initiative. There's a lot of work being done on the sustainability side. So we know that if it's a charge from the mayor, because we are his commission, that we would be in support of those initiatives. But I think like the bigger thing that I would like to discuss is like from a community facing perspective, like what are going to be the like core things that we focus on so that we kind of won't be too stretched. Yeah. So that's it. So what y'all think? We still got to do a thing about lead in school drinking water. So that's in there. That's explicit. Um, would it be helpful for me to give y'all some examples of some things that have come forward? Okay, so at I feel like it was at the December meeting, we had a public comment that was speaking to some of the concerns around groundwater, for example. I mean, groundwater is very important. We do have a groundwater board. The concern was there being the fear of toxins entering into our groundwater. Um, where of course, like we took that public comment, but I'm not really sure within the parameters of this commission. I'm not really sure like if it's best fit like for us. I'm wondering what may have happened is we can just say thank you for providing that comment and then push that back to like the groundwater board for them to kind of like sort out because it explicitly states like that's what they have oversight over. But that's one example. Um, Another example that has come through, I would go back to this agenda item um, around And I guess we could serve like as a liaison because we are community facing. So even with this request, like for a meeting with like a government agency staff person, I think that we could serve as a liaison, but maybe just that. So like it would be like passing the baton, like because like we still have influence and connection to like other agencies, local county agencies. We can say, hey, like whomever the agency is, like there's a member of the community that would like to meet with you on X, Y, and Z, and then we will fulfill our duty as a commission to make that connection, as opposed to what we were gonna do at first, like, well, what should the forum be? Like just roll it back up to like the party that received the request and then kind of be like task complete. But I don't know. What do y'all think?
That makes sense to me. Is there flexibility to deviate a little bit from stuff like that? Once we set it in stone, that's
So that's a good question. Now we put this in the bylaws, then it's like it's technically it's stuck, but I mean not really, because then we would come back and if we want to change something, then we would change it. We just would have to vote with quorum. That's a good question. We can always set goals for ourselves that doesn't necessarily have to be reflected in the bylaws. If it's in the bylaws, it's in the bylaws, meaning like if we like after we serve our term, like that still would be in the bylaws. It would be up to whoever the body that remains if they want to amend those bylaws. um it's not as much immediate flexibility as it would be if we wanted to set like some goals and parameters that are not necessarily connected to the bylaws.
we, we connect the person from the community to that organization. And what does it look like if they don't get back to them in a certain amount of
I
time?
know. See, that's the conundrum, right? I'll give you another example. So as we like are more visible in the community, so if there is, so I'll give a real life complaint. There was a complaint that came from the Douglas community where there's been a series of flooding. Um, and even while we were in the community, that wasn't like what we were necessarily focusing on. We were focusing on lead prevention, right? But it's like you can't just be
Well,
like,
yeah.
we're just here for lead. Bye.
Well,
You
and
know, we can't
also
do
the
that.
flooding is gonna impact the lead.
It
It's gonna impact
is.
the,
It's
so
all
it's a
related.
cycle, yeah.
So, and so this particular community member had shared that they had tried to connect with their respective like elected official and they had not really gotten a response. So what I did was I'm like, well, I will do a connection to, this particular like person's office and say, hey, this is a community member like from this district. I'm going to summarize like what they like. I don't know because I didn't see the flooding. I'm going to summarize what this community member has disclosed as being the issue, and the person is wanting you to follow up with them. But then it does come back like if they don't follow up or if they don't follow up in the way that they want them to follow up. And so then it's kind of like we're stuck. So I'll be transparent and say, like, after we kind of did like the pass off, we're like, okay, like y'all get connected. They were able to, this particular office was able to speak with the resident, but the resident didn't necessarily like whatever the conversation entailed because I wasn't privy to that conversation. Want to be, but that's a good question. So like,
It moves them further along than they might have would have been.
yeah,
But
I mean, now another thing that I could do is just circle back and say, hey, like did y'all figured it out? So at least like we don't destroy the rapport that we have with this community member because they feel empowered and like, ooh, I finally got somebody, right? I got somebody to say something. But then I also want to be transparent with this community member. Like, we don't have like whatever needs to be resolved. We don't necessarily like have capacity to fully resolve that. Now we have partnering agencies that with whatever existing programming might be able to, but still that's a nonprofit organization. That's not city or county.
Yeah. And it's almost like responding is good because you do build trust with them getting answers, but we have to also make sure that the capacity is giving you what we will help connect you, but our goals are this, which that does not fall under our goals,
Mm-hmm.
and almost leave it, if you,
Yeah.
I know, it's
I
a very
know.
hard
It makes me
situation.
sad.
It
But
does.
but it's like, because if we don't like tighten it up, I don't want to be like the middleman. Because if I can go in Douglas, and if I had the skills to stop this flooding, I will go over there tonight, and do it. But like I physically and knowledge base, I don't have any of those skills. Um,
I mean, but also make it more of an education part, like give education on, we can't stop the flooding, but here are some things educational we want you to be aware of.
hmm.
This could make, if you have lead on your house, it could make it worse. If, this
And
is called
mold.
mold and mildew, and here's some resources.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more than a lot of people get from anybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because even when we've been doing like the lead prevention work, if you do have elevated, or if you don't know, right, until you get tested. So we at least say in the interim, filter your water. In the interim, like these are
Right.
these are the steps that you properly do to clean, because you can't use the broom. You got to use the HVAC.
Exactly.
So that makes sense. I think that's a good next step. But being like very upfront and saying, hey, this is how we're gonna show up to support you, so that you can know that up front. Because I don't want you to get upset and feel like you
We're
you
ignoring
failed,
it.
right? Like you kind of got stuck again, right? And yeah.
And sometimes somebody just wants somebody to acknowledge that
That's right.
they are, they have a problem, and you acknowledge they have an
Right.
issue.
Right. Because I don't even know, to be honest. I don't know what with flooding. I'm not very astute on what the responsibilities are from a governmental perspective, locally. I don't know. I'm probably a bit more familiar like with FEMA, but locally I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good next step. That makes me feel better. 'Cause my spirit was a little bit weary. Cause you don't want folks to be like, I still haven't heard back. Like they still haven't done X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh Lord, like what do I do?
And
Like
I
what do I
know,
do?
we're all in that where we want to, like I'm doing air testing right now on somebody with mold that has really nothing to do with our cases, but we got reached out to by Memphis Area Association, Memphis Area Legal Services, and you feel like you've got to make that next step, and you've got to do something because it does impact their health. But then there's a point that, sometimes it's like, well, you solve this, now you can solve this. And you can't, there's some things you're just limited to with
Yeah.
staff and.
And maybe even from like, I love some good data. That's some good qualitative data that we can also demonstrate to people that have greater influence, to say we went in to do this, but we've been noticing also
Yeah.
these trends, right? So that might be helpful too, to say, now we're here for this, but hey, other folks power to be, this your job. This is another area that you may want to explore, as this appears to be like a recurring issue. Okay, cool. Well, look at that, problem solved. 'Cause that was running me low just a little bit. Okay, so are we saying, so I don't necessarily think that requires an amendment to the bylaws. I think
My question on the goals is, everything besides the liaison with the CLEP program is strictly has the word public school.
I know.
I mean, drinking water in public school, risk of drinking water in public schools, lead cases in public schools.
Mhm. That's even with EPA language too.
So is there almost like you could put something pretty generic as far as, look into other lead, I don't even know how to word it, where it would be not grants, not, but look at ways that lead impacts the community on an as-needed basis or
Oh,
something
yeah.
to keep it where it's
Mhm.
not just this lead in
Just
public
the schools,
schools.
yeah.
Where
Just
we
like
do
around like
have
lead exposure
Mhm.
in general.
in general.
Hmm.
And not tie us down to any one thing we're saying we have to do this,
Mhm.
but be advocates for lead, lead environmental issues for our community,
Mhm.
advocate for them and whatever that means. It doesn't have to be like a X marks the spot, this is all we're doing. But right now, I mean, really how it's reading is almost like if it's not a public school issue,
Right. I agree.
which I think it's gone past that. I think that was the
Yeah.
intent maybe 7 years
Yeah,
ago.
it was
But
real critical back in
now-
2019.
Now it's still that, but there's so much more.
Yeah. So that would reference under Article 4 goals. So we would be adding another goal that would be more broad. So would it, dang, who a good wordsmith? Okay.
I was saying,
Dang, okay. So like advocate for lead prevention in Shelby County? I don't know.
tech and community on the end of it, would that work? Shelby County Schools Lead Prevention and community, something to that. Shelby County Schools.
We don't need school in there no more.
Gotcha.
It's in there. Uh,
Shelby County Community.
okay. Let me like write it down. That might help my brain.
And then maybe list of different references or sites.
Okay.
I mean, I almost like that number 5 where it's monitor and provide public transparency regarding responses to lead cases in public schools. And almost something to that, like monitor and provide public transparency regarding lead hazards to the community. I mean, something.
Which number was that?
Number 5.
Oh, dang, right here where my pen was.
But have almost like provide public transparency regarding
Oh,
lead,
monitor.
lead hazards in Shelby County. And I don't know the wording, but I'm just thinking.
So monitor and provide. Well, I think similar to that, but we would want to say advocate instead of monitoring, because that monitoring part,
Yeah, we don't want to
that'd be a
monitor.
lot. No.
Yeah, we want to advocate.
Okay. So.
Because that's what we're doing with transparency, even with like MLGW and like the water crisis, making sure people are knowing to filter instead of just boiling. I mean that's something we're doing, and it's advocating for advocating for lead, lead hazard education.
Okay. Advocate for lead hazard education in Shelby County.
Yeah, just in Shelby County. I mean, I think that's pretty. It's not tying you to having.
And then you said in the Shelby County community, it's something nice about the word community. Yeah, it could sound kind of sterile if you don't put it a little cold.
Yeah, Shelby County just something.
Okay, so advocate for lead hazard education in the Shelby County community.
Communities.
Our communities, yep, plural. Yes, because there are many communities. Now I know better as a native. Come on. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. Let me get my rules together. Okay. So we want to make a motion to approve an additional goal to our bylaws to read Goal 6, advocate for lead hazard education in Shelby County communities.
Now, I know on Robert's rules, some things,
Yeah, I'm like, well,
when you're changing a bylaw, you have to put it out until the next meeting.
Oh, do we?
But I don't know if this would be the case. I don't know. Just putting that out there.
can Google it.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, let's
I was
see.
listening to TikToks on my drive over. That terrible.
Dang, Eric, he looks scared. He's top-notch Kappa Alpha Psi. He got all of the Robert's Rule of Orders. I'm ashamed as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, baby. I don't remember. I don't remember.
Me either.
Oh, just okay, so this just says most bylaws with amendment procedures require calling a meeting of the board. I mean, in this instance, it would be LPC members and hold a vote on the amendment. Uh, oh, I see what you're talking about. So this is, um, hmm. I don't think that we have to. I think like if we didn't have quorum, we could potentially call a special meeting where we would have to vote. But since we have quorum, I think that we can go ahead and vote on it. Now, I know what it is. I think we can go ahead and vote on the actual change of the language, but then at the next meeting, that would be the first time that we would see it in print. That's what it is. So we will vote on the change of the language tonight, and then in between now and the next public meeting, then the actual like document has to be updated, and then when we come back to the next meeting, then that will be on the agenda, and then we would have to read it in print, and then we would have to have the bylaws updated, and it has to be public. Okay, it came to me. Okay. So we can still vote for it, but it wouldn't necessarily be enacted until it's actually revised in the physical bylaws. Okay. Yes. Teamwork makes the dream work. Okay. So I'm like, do I make what's the language that I use? I don't make a motion. I move. There we go. I move that we add an additional goal for Article 4 in the LPC bylaws to add the following language. Goal 6, advocate for lead hazard reduction in Shelby County communities.
Second.
Okay. So moved. So we have voted favorably to add goal 6 to Article 4 goals, advocate for lead hazard reduction in Shelby County communities. Woo! All right. Man, boom. That feels good because that's what we were doing anyway, but we hadn't put it in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, look at that. Won't he do it? All right. Okay, so next item. Okay. So on this next item, so increase Shelby County Daycare's child care facilities participation in the free lead testing program. So this wasn't a public comment. Let me put that on the record. This was actually something that was sent like in my personal capacity because I wasn't aware. But there was an article that's pretty much saying that there's money. What was it, like 750,000? It wasn't that much. I forgot how much it was. Let me not quote that. But essentially, there was a pot of money that was statewide funding, where childcare facilities and daycares could get free testing. I can attest that were some there were some charter schools that did take advantage of that. Like some charter schools like have not under their charter school like provision, but they have pre-K kids like in their building, and they were able to get access to this, and it worked out in their favor because I'm like, the kids are already in your building. You can't say, well, just test for this part with the pre-K. You got to do all of it, right? So that was a win for them. But essentially, the question was like, what do we do? And I'm like, man, I don't know. Um, I don't really know that child care facilities knew that this existed, and I don't really know how that information would be accessible. Like, is it something on like a state website? Like, how would you know? How do you know?
Grants.gov, or do they have to
Yeah.
apply? Is it just like
Like,
automatic?
is it a
You just-
form? I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, they definitely don't know because
I don't think
that's
they
been our
know.
target audience for
Yeah.
the last couple of months. They care stuff. They're not aware.
Maybe the next step is to just ask the state, like, where, how do you know? Where are the resources? Because then we need to see what it looks like. Because is it accessible?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are people gonna know what you're talking about? Yeah, because I have no idea. I don't know. I don't think that they know.
It's about increasing awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the next step. I don't even know where it is. So I can do an ask. I can ask the state, like, where do you get this information? What are the steps? What's the process? Like, because another part of that question is, can you use your own vendor, or is it somebody that, like, the state is saying that has to do it? I have no idea. So yeah, I would just really be curious from the state, like, what are all the nuances that's associated with this, and how do you access this? But I'm confident that folks don't know, because to be honest, I didn't even know that they could do that until this one particular school told me. When I still used to work for the district, I was like, oh, okay, well, I just learned something. You just told me something. I did not know what was going on.
They
But
told you about this point.
they told me about, like, that they could actually, like, do it. Like, they could do it. So the only thing at that point, because in my previous life, I just said, okay. And then, because you have to be careful, because you can choose however you want to do your testing because you're a charter. And so essentially the only thing that they gave back to me is just their results. Um, but yeah, once we find out, like, what it entails, I guess, can we push back to say, like, what y'all been doing to tell people about it to the state? Y'all the one that's got the money, because the money didn't go locally. It's with the state. Yeah. Put that back on there. No child, y'all think that's cool?
Trying to see, can I open it from here? Look at that. You're so fancy.
What?
You're just your agendas and being able to.
Type A
Your
personality. And I don't like being in meetings and they reference stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I want to see it so I can know what you're talking about. And I have to keep Googling stuff. Were you looking to see if you could find something?
I'm just reading, like, kind of.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have a call with TDEC tomorrow, so
Okay.
I will just ask.
Yeah,
that
excellent. Yeah.
With this article.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm like, I don't want that to be like an issue where if there's an opportunity to get funded again and they're not demonstrating that people are using it, then, like, we'll lose it and people didn't even know.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So that'll be our next step. Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Coolio. Okay. The next update, I just want to share this link that the website is up and it's so
I was
cute.
gonna say it says it's a non-competitive grant.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's pretty much like, if you want it, just
You
come
get
and get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need.
Makes it even more interesting. What?
Okay.
Now I want to know, like, equity. Like, I want to know what counties now, like, break it down. What counties have been using it, and what I want to know.
Right.
Because I'm pretty confident between Shelby and Davison, we would have the most.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sharon. Some good detective work. Okay. So that was it. Is that the website is done and it's cute. I'm really excited. It took 2 years for it to happen. And y'all like the little handle on it? It's got lead-free Shelby. That made me excited. It's the little things. Yeah. Um, Next update, I'm so excited about this. I hope that we see some good turnaround. This was like 2.5 years in the making. So Memphis Shelby County Schools is by far the most progressive and innovative with really trying to work around lead poison prevention. And so with their parent newsletter that goes out to the 100,000 plus babies that we have in the district. will essentially include the information about how to contact the health department should they want their child to get lead level testing. We know that post, even before COVID, but especially post COVID, this is a struggle. Getting our babies in to get tested, because the more we know as far as need. So we're gonna touch and agree that we at least get some to come in to get tested. But I'm just really excited about that partnership. I worked in several districts before, and that has never happened. And I'll say this, even I work for DC Public Schools, and they have a whole bill that existed years before some of the bills that we saw in Tennessee. And that definitely was not a communication that went out. So that's pretty progressive. So I do want to give kudos both to the Shelby County Health Department, woo, Childhood Lead Poison Prevention Program, and also to Memphis Shelby County Schools. So very excited about that. That's my update there. Next agenda item, F, update on the 160,000 EJ investment resolution. So just because I'm not sure like if everybody is privy to it, but I'll give a quick context to this. So maybe in 2020, what were you in? 2023. I think in 2020 is when there were a group of community organizations that essentially was like, hey, yep, because this is when the COVID money came out, that some of that money needs to go towards environmental justice. So former county commissioner Tammy Sawyer introduced this resolution. It passed unanimously. It's the first time in county history that money went specifically towards environmental justice, so that's a big win. But because it's environmental justice, it's broad, which is not bad. So because the LPC is lead prevention and sustainability, our recommendation, because we are not the powers that be, our recommendation is that there would be investment around lead poison prevention. I feel confident that that will be the direction that it goes to, just because there's clearly a need for that around like the actual education, but also like the labor that's associated with getting the lead remediation work done, the testing done, so on and so on. So that's kind of the update. And again, it's not final. It's not I'm not making a decision, but I do know like the advocacy from our behalf is for it to be investment in lead prevention. Yes. Um, I don't have an update of when the timeline is. I do know, what did we say? I think that they have until 2025 to spend it. So, you know, I feel confident that we'll know in 2023. I think so, because I would like to think that we would not wait until it's almost time to spend it.
Kind of like the EJ grant.
I know, fix it, Jesus. So we're just gonna touch and agree that we will learn. So, but that's in a
Maybe
good
something to do with
direction.
that EPA, EJ, just that.
Yeah, we need to
You
talk.
have 2 months to spend.
I know. Oh boy. Okay, so that's my update there. The next update, we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting in December. So around a citywide lead awareness event. So at the December meeting, we talked about doing something big around lead poison prevention weeks. This is in October. Excuse me. So that gives us more time because literally every year it sneaks up on us. It'll be like September the 28th, and I'm like, dang, oops. Um,
Well, I'll just add, so HUD is wanting to come down in June for like a build event. It's sort of like a rock the block type event. And they sent it to both lead grants. And so, so I met with Shelby County Lead, not Shelby County, City of Memphis Lead, and they were, are we interested in doing it? Also talked about, getting Black Millennials for Flint involved in that. And then the lead commission also, the health department, CLEP program. So Tavita is supposed to be kind of writing it back, getting with Shelby County
Mm-hmm.
to make sure, they're interested in it. It's kind of, HUD's really only bring would be their national vendors like Home Depot, Lowe's, Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, so
Like forget Home
that's
Depot,
kind of
but
the
Sesame
that's
Street.
kind of the big, what they can bring into it. They kind of talked about it being sort of like the Rock a Block events, like Habitat has done in the past, where it's kind of beautifications, houses that have had lead work done could also get appliances, added on with this money. So I think June is really quick, so maybe they could push it to October more for Lead Week. But that's
It could
something that
be
we
both.
can maybe, instead of having one,
Mm-hmm.
piggyback on an event instead of having two different events. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that.
I think that's great.
So we're supposed to, what's that meeting? Start having like bi-weekly meetings on it and kind of go from there. So as soon as that kind of gets scheduled and all, I'll bring that information, and the more the merrier.
Yeah, and I think it will also be good, like from a PR perspective, is to really highlight best practices. So, for example, like with the, I know it's the EPA grant, it's not a HUD grant, but still, what is the name of it? The cooperative grant? What is the name?
Cooperative agreement, cooperative partnership.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I think that kind of uplifting those best practices of like seeing how government, right, and nonprofit, community-based organizations work. I think that would be really good to amplify and demonstrate.
And that's one thing I wanted to show, not just like the houses that have just had lead work, but which ones have also gotten older adult home modifications, which have gone through the MHE program.
Yeah.
And gotten assessed, and have all, not just have all these houses kind of showcased as partnerships,
and talk to like the actual like people, like people,
and that's what so the Rock the Block that we did in Castelia Heights a few years ago was, we had hamburgers and hot dogs out there. Like my suggestion was even have Memphis inner city rugby, be able to do manpower, plus put on some exhibition for the kids, showing rugby in the community. And then we did so the manpower was, we did raking, putting solar lights around people's flower beds. Lowe's or Home Depot, one of the two, we had trucks full of flowers, so we could plant flowers, put baskets on people's porches, and especially the solar lights are in to show, light up the neighborhood, and so crime goes down if everybody has light, and just being proud of your neighborhood. And so I love that idea. So I'd like this to be kind of piggybacked on that, and not just for those that have already gotten the work.
Right.
Let's look at the next door neighbor and the one that didn't qualify because of all the barriers, because they didn't have clear ownership, or they had past due taxes because they can't afford everything. Let's look at the neighbors, not just the homes we did. So that was kind of my. So I think that would be something, to be the awareness event could be all wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
If it moves forward. So.
And you said the city and the county already are.
Have been notified. Yeah.
Okay.
HUD sent the director, this deputy director, sent something to both programs. So yeah.
Okay.
We met with city this morning, and they asked us to steer that, but for it to be done in June.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be June, and that's why, because that's Healthy Homes Month, and so that's the reason why that's where June comes in play. Did you talk to Tavita today?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I had mentioned, we talked yesterday, and so I would rather it be in October.
That's what I said to him as well. It's like, it's more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can get more sponsors.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
incorporate the communities more.
They could do something smaller scale in June. You could do, what is it called? you can do like a small scale like showcase that's literally small.
You could say that and say coming in June.
Yeah, like a precursor. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
get ready for June, you know.
Because June is right now.
But I will tell you, even October is so soon. And so if you don't, you know, if you don't start planning, it'll be next June. You know, so it's almost like you just have to dive in. And that's kind of what we did with the Rock the Block. It was kind of short notice, but then when you have short notice, it seems like you get so much more done because
Your
you
adrenaline.
don't think, oh, I got 2 months. You think, I got to get it done now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I think the commission should be a part of too.
Okay. Well, keep us updated on what, you know.
And that's what I said. I said, I'll talk to you. I'll be there tomorrow.
Works for me. Okay, cool. So Sharon and Dr. Burns, y'all just keep us in the know. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can move to, we're almost done. Yeah, we're doing good on time. Okay, so new business and I kind of talked about this earlier about the complaint that we had from my and I need to update this. This was not Hyde Park. Ooh, shame on me. This was Douglas, not Hyde Park. I'm so
Is this
sorry.
not because the Hyde Park does have the complaint with the water that they
Was it?
refused
Oh,
the
I'm
water.
right. Never
It
mind.
is
I
Hyde Park.
was right.
You were
Sorry. I was scared. I'm like, wait a minute.
No, it is
Scratch what I
Hyde Park.
said. This is another complaint. Fix it, Jesus. Okay. So with this complaint, so I do have an update there. So Hyde, a Hyde Park community leader, they did go themselves and spoke before city council, and complained about issues around discolored water. It just so happened to be that the president of MLGW was there when they said this. So there has been a bit more like attentiveness. Also in Hyde Park, they have started to submit more and more tests to MLGW, which is great, which is what we want them to do, with the hopes that one that we can see like what the results are that come back from MLGW. And I did get a chance to see one. So I'm going to send it to you. So it does show what the actual level was, because at first I thought that it was going to say, especially like if it's
We got okay. So we were doing for our residents doing the water samples, taking the MLGW, and they were accepting them, giving us back the lab results. It was an agreement. What happened was there was this one test that came through the community member who MLGW gave them the test. Our contractor was out in the community and said, I will take this when I take the GHHI test. There's no chain of custody. Let's just say it's here's the water, here is the results. It did not say who had to take them. MLGW refused to take this water because it was brown. So I thought it was one of our waters. So I sent a letter saying, I don't understand why you refuse to take brown water. Nothing in your pamphlet say the water can't be brown. It says draw from the sink. While it's running, you unscrew this one and draw the second one, whether it's brown, orange, red, white, clear. You know, there's nothing in there about the condition of the water, just that you're taking it first draw after been sitting and from the same location. If you're doing the bathroom, you do the bathroom. If you're doing the kitchen, you do the kitchen. And so that just got into this whole, we're not going to do any more samples for anybody anymore. We're not going to let y'all do. So my answer is, well, fine. Everybody that wants a blood water sample, we need to call and get them to request, because we're doing a favor. We were doing a service for MLGW too that kept their technicians from having to go deliver the bottles, pick up the bottles, send the results to the people. I mean, we were doing all this for them. And so and then they said, you did not follow chain of custody. There was no chain of custody. Yep. There's no chain of custody. So I'm glad this has gone to that, because I would love for us if President McGowan needs some more information, I would be happy to share that information because we had a great relationship with them and there was no issues until they didn't want to take brown water.
And I was extremely concerned because brown water is a clear indicator that there could potentially be heavy metals in that water. We learned that from Flint. We learned that from Newark. Like that was the telltale sign if the water is brown. And then like my other follow-up question was, how can you look at a sample and determine, because they said it was rust. They said it was rust. I'm like, how do you determine that? And even with rust, that still indicates that it's a metal in there.
Then they said
What?
it was taken, we refused it because it was taken from the hot water tank. No, it wasn't.
It was not.
It was not taken from the hot water tank. And they got that because at one point the contractor was asking, hey, can we take some from the hot water tank? We're told no, so none were taken from the hot water tank. So that was kind of another excuse.
And then if it was, okay, so if it's a regular customer that is not an engineer, this is not like their forte, do you ask that to like how do you make the inference? You know what I'm saying? So like if I'm not an engineer, I'm just a regular customer. If I get a kit and I, do what I'm supposed to do, how do you know like where to, you know what I'm saying? That was a very odd question.
It says, I mean, on the form it says, where did you take the water? Kitchen or bathroom?
You assume that people are going to follow instructions.
Yeah, they circled kitchen. So are you saying they lied and took it from a hot water tank? It said clearly they took it
and
from
like
the kitchen
layman,
sink.
like you wouldn't know how to do that anyway. I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to go into I don't know.
I'm scared that I will destroy.
My hot water tank is on hot because I'm scared to touch it. But so I'm glad they make that complaint because it was very, it was just,
it was
all
very
taken out
triggering.
of context and it was all just completely, they just didn't want to take water samples is what I get.
Well, we're gonna keep sending them. Well, that's a good segue to this next discussion item is the request to meet with the new MLGW president. So we can definitely put in a request. I did ask, and it was recommended that we discuss this in an open forum. But I mean, I definitely think that we should do a request as the LPC. I mean, if you want to meet, like in your other respective aspects of life, I don't care.
Right,
But like as an LPC,
not about just this complaint, but also about all the money and
the plan that they're supposed to do.
And
because it needs to be community based. Because every time I've been asking, I moved back to Memphis in 2017, and I've been asking like, what's your remediation plan? So MLGW, in comparison to other cities, because they had that GIS map, that is a big step in the right direction. But because you have a GIS map, that means that you are admitting, like, I know that there are lead service lines. So if you knowing that information, what are you doing with that information? To me, like, if you don't like have a plan, because that GIS map, what they started doing in 2016 is when they started laying that out. This is 2023. So like, what's your plan? And every time we ask for a plan, it might be like 2 sentences. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
And some money was like, that was for the private and
that's the majority of the money.
They declined some money. So
they
did. They have their plan. We don't know what the plan is. And why would you, there's still people, everybody that's getting the private side taken care of. I mean, the public side, the private side still has lead on the inside of their house.
And they admitted that they don't have a repository that even tells them like if it's on the private side. And so that's another key thing that this MLGW president needs to know. With any of this federal funding that has come through the Biden-Harris administration, if you use any of that money to do lead service line replacement and you even do one partial service line replacement, you put all your funding in jeopardy. You cannot do that. It's literally explicit. Like, you cannot do that. You're literally admitting that you're doing it.
If you're splitting, we're going to fix our side, but leave your your side with lead water lines.
So yeah, I agree that definitely needs to be a priority. Like, what is your plan? Like, you can't escape this now. I want to understand like why this has not been a priority, especially now. You literally have like you have a whole get the lead out program from the White House. So there's literally like no reason why this should not be a priority, especially being that you know that this is a known issue. So,
And
yep.
also when they tell people to boil water, to tell them to filter it first.
Yep. And we
But
told
that's
them
bad.
that. So
We
what was
did. They
that
did.
last year
It
or
was
year before
last
last? I don't
year,
know.
and they actually
Because
came
they
out.
fought back against us. So I was like, hey, you know that it's lead service lines. You need to say filter first, then boil. Then they came for me and was like, well, that's not the guidance that we got from TDEC. And I said, oh, all right, bet. So I took some language from another EPA region. I was like, this is the language that they use like in the mid-Atlantic. And so then TDEC was like, no, you can go ahead and put that language in. And it did. They updated it. They
did.
updated
But
it.
then we have this next ice
Mhm.
storm. No mention
Nothing.
again. It's boil your lead and make it.
That's the
drink it.
same thing that happened in Flint.
Yep.
Like, what's wrong with you? Okay, I'd be getting real
And so
upset.
that would also be talk about a filter program.
Yeah. Because I don't have clarity on how they determine who gets the filter and who doesn't. And they only do what, 3 months? And then it's an education part to that too. Like, you have to really like get people to understand, like, if you don't replace this filter when it's up, like, this is no longer working.
Exactly.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think what we'll do, one, of course, like set up when we do the request, and I'll get Catrice to help with that. So you have to respond. And then we can have like our set agenda items.
I mean, he's been in community development. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that he's at least listening and going to meetings. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a step.
And if you show like literally, it makes me sad that I'm from Memphis. Do you know how sad it was when I went to the White House and Tennessee and Shelby County was listed as an accelerator?
I know.
That sucked.
I know. And
But you have to show like due diligence that you've been trying at the local
And
level.
we've had grants since 1992. Lead grants. I wrote the first lead grant in 1992. That's a long time ago. I was 12 when I did it.
Are you serious?
I was in the first in the first grade. Yep. I was a baby.
For the newbies, accelerator.
So the Biden-Harris administration has released this like pilot accelerator program through this Get the Lead Out partnership. That's the last thing on the announcement too. I'm gonna merge the two. So essentially with these like core cities, they get additional funding to help to propel like the work that they've already been doing around lead service line replacement. So like some of the cities are like, of course, Newark. I mean, like they top tier, chef's kiss. Newark. Um, the city of Flint is no, the city of Flint is not an accelerator. They're part of the partnership. Let me see, somewhere in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island was in
Yeah,
there.
Rhode Island is in there. It's in this hyperlink. I can't think of them. Newark is like top tier. That's what everybody's looking at Newark. But essentially, what they want to do and why they selected those core cities is because like they're demonstrating. I think Milwaukee was another one. So some places in the Midwest because it was interesting because it wasn't Flint. But essentially, like they're going to be working in partnership with EPA so that they can essentially like establish like these best practice cities so that eventually like this could be replicated like in other parts of the country.
Little Rock's on there, who's never
Girl,
had a
Little
lead
Rock
grant.
on there?
Little Rock has never had a lead grant. 0 lead grants, and they're on there.
No shade to Little Rock, but dang.
Yeah, you don't have. Jackson got one. Jackson has a
Well,
lead. Yeah, I mean they do have a lead grant,
and then I just feel like, yeah, to see like, dang, I don't want it to end up like Jackson in order for us to like get this done, right?
Exactly.
I don't want that to happen. Child. But anyway, that's the accelerator. And that just makes me sad because I'm like, if we were able to demonstrate like effort, then we could potentially have been sought out, but we were not. Yep. Okay, next item. Yep, because I know they're gonna be ready to put us out in about 11 minutes. So next item, update. So, um, kudos to Mayor Harris and team for the Green Fleet Ordinance. It did go before the committee, the last committee meeting. Supposed to make public comment, but go to meeting cuts up. I can see that in my own life right now. But I think it has about like three more rounds to go through committee. But essentially, with the Green Fleet Ordinance, it is proposing, and that's a pilot. You have to be careful with that. But essentially, to invest in electric vehicles for like Shelby County vehicles, essentially.
Code
Um,
enforcement, housing.
yeah.
Like, so y'all like, well, so since Office of Resilience is part of it, we went to the first little groundbreaking.
Yep.
Then they canceled the one last week because of the ice, right? It
Yeah.
was supposed to be at Mullen Station, but they want to go full Green Fleet, I think, at some point, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, in the initial interaction with commission, it appeared to be favorable. In fact, I know Commissioner Thornton even mentioned like what's going on like with, some of the municipalities. Like, can you get them on board too? Because, it could be a concerted effort because even those like other counties, I mean, not counties, those municipalities still contribute to like our overall like environmental quality. I mean, I'm very excited. Kudos to them. I think is very progressive. Um, yeah, so we'll kind of see like what goes forward. I should be in person whenever the next I think, hope and pray that I'll be in person to fully support. But it seems like it's gonna be good. I don't think that it's gonna be like a really big fight. It's also not partisan, so it's very diverse as far as support right now. So that's really exciting. That's another kind of best practice thing that is definitely not happening in the southeast part of the country. So kudos to Mayor Harrison team. So last thing, announcement. So I spoke about this with President Biden's Get the Lead Out program. Um, so not the LPC, but my nonprofit was one of the nonprofits, and GHHI is one of the inaugural members of that partnership. So I'm really excited to get a lot of information from, especially from these accelerators. Watching. To see like exactly like what they're doing so we can bring this back home and we can get it together on this lead front. But I'm really excited to see this like from a White House perspective.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
big deal.
Yeah.
The level of prioritization like is it feels good, especially that's my lane around lead. So I'm really excited to see what some other cities that have really been putting in work and what we can learn from that, so we can get to this lead free Shelby. Yes, Lord. Um, I think that's it. Yep, we made it. All right. So, were there any other announcements before we adjourn? Nope. All right. So I move to adjourn the Shelby County Lead Prevention Sustainability, wait a minute, Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission meeting at 7:23 p.m.
Second.
All right, so moved. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks virtual friends for joining us tonight. We'll make sure to follow us on social media so that you can get access to the minutes. Um, and I think that I have your contact information. I'll make sure that you get the minutes. But thank you. Wait,
Hey,
how do I
can you give me like physical address for Black Millennials for Flint? Where would you something?
you know